What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to my very first player breakdown. I'm pretty excited about it. I've been working on this since the day after he did the workout at the Atlanta High School. You know who it's about. You see the title. You clicked on it. It's about Colin Kaepernick. And I'm going to be going over 2012, the short year he played that year, 2013 full year, 2014 full year, and 15 and 16, which were short years. And then we're going to be talking about a couple of events that followed that, my opinions on a couple of things there. And then at the end of it, I do have one question to keep in mind. And the biggest question here is Colin Kaepernick good enough to play in the NFL at any level? Starter, backup, third string. Is he good enough? That's what we're going to be talking about. Let's start off with 2012. If you don't remember, 2012 was the Alex Smith injury. Alex Smith was out for a couple of games. Colin was only supposed to start those couple of games, but Colin Smith, sick. Colin Kaepernick Colin Kaepernick basically won the starting job in Chicago. A couple of weeks later, they rode the hot hand. They eventually went off to the Super Bowl that year. They did lose in the Super Bowl. It had nothing to do with Colin getting there or losing. So you can't really place the blame on that at all. But I do think the coaching staff did make a good decision in riding the hot hand of Colin Kaepernick. I will throw the stats up right now. You're going to be seeing it compared to 2012 Alex Smith, how they stack up to each other. You guys can make your own opinions off of that, so you guys can see everything I'm seeing too. But something you guys might not be able to see is the film. And that's something that I will be diving deep into every single year. Let's start off with 2012. And before I start, think about 2012, 13, 14, 15. Think about Colin Kaepernick and his film as a pyramid. I start 2012 with a base. How did he build up? How did he build up from that base? And we're going year after year. How did he keep building himself until we get the full pyramid of Colin Kaepernick's career? Did it topple? Was there bad moments? Yes. Was there great moments? We'll see. Let's start with 2012. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. I think Colin Kaepernick's season can be defined in a couple of buts. Okay, B-U-T-S, butts. Get your head out of the gutter. Number one, Colin Kaepernick, he had a big arm that allows him to command a lot of respect from the defense because he does have that ability to drive the ball down the field. But Colin has very few plays across the entire 2012 season where he put some type of lob or touch on the ball, resulting in overthrown deep balls that have a narrow trajectory, and defenders can make the play on the ball. So plays that it's a corner route, it's a post route to the corners, and he wants to lob it over a defender. He fails a lot of the times because he's not putting that. He's not putting that type of touch or lob on the ball that we need to see out of him. Again, something to think about. How does he build up on that? Next, Colin's completion percentage took a blow every single time he dumped off to a running back or a fullback because of drop passes. But Colin Kaepernick needs to learn to scale back on throwing it and trying to murder the running back and the fullback because they aren't built to catch the ball like that anyways. He needs to learn how to throw it to a running back compared to how to throw it to a wide receiver, especially throwing it to a running back like Frank Gore or their fullback. These guys aren't used to catching the ball when it's being thrown at them like that. Okay, so he needs to build off of that. Next, Colin's accuracy was above average when he had the ability to set his feet. But when he was backpedaling on play action, he rolled out of the pocket at all, and required him to, in play action specifically, when it required him to go past the first read, he was extremely inaccurate. Okay, next, Colin Kaepernick is very safe with the ball and doesn't just give it away. But if his first or second read isn't there, he does one of two things. He tucks it and runs, or dumps it off to the running back. You might be saying to yourself, why is that a butt? It seems like a good thing that he doesn't give the ball away. But here's the thing. It's the speed he does it at. Okay, so he checks his 1 or 2. He checks his 1 and 2, so that's because he doesn't go much past that. Then he just tucks it and runs. He has time to go through the rest of his progression, but he doesn't. He needs to settle down in the pocket and play it a little smarter. My remaining points aren't butts, but they are important to mention. Is the 49ers, when Colin Kaepernick was at the helm and he was commanding the offense, the plays were boring. I felt myself bored with the 2012 season. Slants, short little curls, screen passes, and like the same 3 play action plays over and over and over and over again. I'm like, oh, I've seen this before. Oh, I've seen this before. Yep, there it is again. Well, that sucks. Not really a whole lot outside of that. You had little things here and there. I'm not saying every single play was it. 90% of the time, those are the plays right there. And I get it. It's understandable why there's not a whole lot outside of that, because you build a playbook around Alex Smith, and then he gets hurt. Now Colin Kaepernick is the starter, and he has a different skill set and style from Alex Smith. Okay, he's not as big as a pocket passer, so you have to try to use your what the plays you have in your playbook are, and try to cater to Colin. Okay, next I want to talk about his most impressive game, which was the game that actually won him the starting job in San Francisco. It was against the Bears. He had 2 plays that really caught my eye. 2 things I want to talk about. And it was honestly his 2 best plays probably from the season. Number 1, something I want to talk about that Colin does that I do want to see him improve is him throwing with his entire body, not just his arm. If you look at the 2012 highlights or clips, that's something you guys can get your hands on. And I'll show it to you up on the screen. He goes and he cocks his arm back and just throws. Cocks it back, throws. He's not throwing with his body. He's not throwing with his hip. That's it. He's just in his legs. You've seen the Dak dance. It's not just a dance. It's not just it's a warm-up for something he's doing in the games. Okay, it's something that he, as Colin needs to improve on, is throwing with his lower half of the body. And he did it in this game. And honestly, it was the only time I actually saw him do it. And it's something noticeable too, because when a guy has a funky playing style like that, it's weird because he doesn't throw it with his legs. He has a huge cannon, but he doesn't throw it with his legs. It's weird. So when he doesn't throw with just his arm, then you notice it immediately. And it was the only time I noticed it throughout the entire 2012 season. Next is it was a play action play, and I think it was the 3rd or 4th quarter. Basically, he faked to the running back, as you do normally in a play action. He rolled out to his right. He went through every single one of his progressions, every single one of them. You saw him. 1, 2, 3, boom. And as soon as he saw number 4 open, he put touch on the deep ball, and he threw to Michael Crabtree on the left side of the end zone. Great throw to the opposite side of the field. Great touch, and he went through every single one of his progressions. It showed promise and potential that Colin could be way, way better than what he was actually showing. All right, so that was a 2012 season. Next, let's move on to 2013. I'm going to throw the stats up right here. As you see here, there is a comparison to one person, and you'll see the same person next for the next year too, Ryan Tannehill. I used Ryan Tannehill specifically because I wanted to find someone who's in their 2nd year starting in the NFL, and I wanted to find someone who wasn't Andrew Luck because the person that was next closest to Ryan Tannehill was Andrew Luck, and I don't think that's a super fair comparison. They're both out of the league, but the difference is Andrew did it on his own accord. Okay, so I'm going to throw those stats up right there, give you a second to look at it. You could see how they stacked up against each other. In my opinion, I think Ryan Tannehill is a step above Colin Kaepernick. And let's go ahead and jump into his 2013 film. The first thing I want to look at for this season is how did he improve on his deep ball after another year under his belt and a Super Bowl. That's important. A Super Bowl start in and playoffs. In fact, I was surprised about he improved a lot. But here's a catch. He had to have his feet set in order for that deep ball to float and be precise how he wanted it to be. And that's the catch. Okay? Feet set. How often does a mobile quarterback like Colin have his feet set when throwing deep? The answer is not very often. I went through most of the season actually thinking his deep ball didn't improve at all. And until actually he played the Arizona Cardinals partway through the season, he played against them, and I actually realized then The pass rush wasn't that good. He didn't get any really real pressure on him. He was able to set his feet, let his wide receivers go through their routes, and then he was put in touch on the ball, and it was precise. But it doesn't happen that often. I went through most of the season not thinking he improved, and then he finally did it, and he did it here and there at the end of the season, but not too much outside of that. Speaking of having his feet set, I wasn't looking for Colin to stay in the pocket more or have more of a pocket presence. It takes time to do that, but I didn't expect him to roll out of the pocket as much as he did, because it wasn't like he was looking to run immediately. It's like he got uncomfortable in the pocket, and he wanted to get out as soon as possible. It's like the offensive line in front of him made him claustrophobic, and he didn't like it. So he wanted to roll out and have an open field so he could see everything in front of him. But when he's moving outside of the pocket and he doesn't have his feet set, he's extremely inaccurate. So it's a double-edged sword for him. So he has that ability to move outside the pocket, and he has a clear open field now for him, but he's inaccurate now. So not really something you want to look for in a quarterback. And like I said, I wasn't looking for him to stay in the pocket more, but I wasn't expecting him to run as much as he did. And since we're talking about him moving outside the pocket, let's move into just his running in general. He gained the most yards by moving outside the pocket and running when he wanted to. Again, when he wanted to. I say that because for a dude that's so mobile, you would think that getting sacked as much as he did would be damn near unheard of. But the problem is when you go back and you look at the film, a lot of the sacks were attempts at running for yards and getting stopped short for a sack. He was trying to take from the defense something that wasn't there. He wasn't just taking what was open, what the defense was giving him. He was trying to force things. And that's the mistakes he was making, and he got sacked a lot because of it. But on the flip side, he wouldn't be much better if he wanted to run by just doing the coach's design runs anyways. They were boring, they were predictable, and honestly, it put Colin in harm's way because of a simple-minded run play. Oh, left and run, left and run, left and run. I felt like I read that so many times when going through his film. It said Colin for left and run for -2 yards. I felt like I read that a lot. And I didn't like the coach's decisions on. I would think after a full off season, being able to cater to Colin, you'd be able to come up with something better than a left and run or a right and run, maybe some read option stuff in there. But no, I didn't. He would be much better just doing those design runs if you wanted to run anyways. Okay, next, I want to talk about Anquan Boldin and how he helped Kaepernick in his improvement. This year, Kaepernick was actually throwing the ball to Anquan Boldin more than anyone else by like a mile and a half. He had 85 catches for over 1,100 yards, and the playbook really seemed to open up for Colin this year. And that's a combination of coach's trust and a full offseason of knowing who your quarterback is. And I really think that putting an elite receiver talent like Anquan in your lineup, it seemed like no matter what Anquan was doing, Kaepernick felt comfortable enough just to let it fly. And when he's doing those things repetitively, when you're doing something that takes repetition, you're going to get better when it comes in skill and speed. So when he's doing it to Anquan, he's eventually going to be doing it to everyone else. Now, that's what I really like seeing. And the last thing I want to talk about is Colin's probably biggest thing, something that a lot of his haters talk about, is his progressions. Colin did improve with his progressions this year, but not enough for me to say, yes, that's a starting level quarterback going through his progressions appropriately. Not fast enough or consistent enough. And I will be looking for him in the 2014 to get faster and more consistent with it. Okay, with 2014, next, again, looking at Ryan Tannehill's stats, Colin Kaepernick's stats, I'm throwing up on the screen right now. And once again, Ryan Tannehill, I think, is just ahead of the curve. When it comes to Kaepernick versus Tannehill, they have the same record, but Tannehill beats him in completion percentage, passing yards, touchdowns. He's not too far off on the interceptions. I mean, he beats him in almost every category that matters. So, go ahead and give you a second to look at that. And we're going to go ahead and move on to 2014. So this was really the second full year of Colin Kaepernick starting, and it was his second and last full year, 100% full year of starting. And I really had expected big things from Colin Kaepernick this time around. So let's go ahead and start off with the accuracy. He greatly improved his accuracy, amazingly. Things I noticed especially were when his feet were dead set, and then throwing on play action. When he had his feet set in that perfect, cup-shaped offensive line shape, so the U-shaped pocket basically, he's on the money when throwing deep, medium. I say deep, he's probably 7 out of 10 times he'll hit his target, 9 out of 10 times in the medium range, and short range was never really a huge problem, so no really big noticeable changes with that. And I think that his best range was 10 to 15 yards, the medium range. Okay, again, let me reiterate this. This is when his feet are set. This isn't all the time. This is when his feet are set and he has a perfect pocket. And then when talking about the play action, like I mentioned, he looks really good, almost the same as his feet being set. But he doesn't really look great as a whole when throwing on the run. It's just when he has those design progressions for him set in place for him where he can go through his progressions. He looks really good doing that. But when he has to make some type of magic happen, roll out of the pocket, and try to throw downfield to someone, his accuracy dips a lot. And it was kind of disappointing. But he did improve, just in general, his accuracy. When scrambling outside the pocket, though, he has a really, really bad tendency to run to the left side of the field instead of what right-handed quarterbacks do, and run to the right side of the field. So even if he runs outside the pocket, you better hope that he runs to the right side so he has a better body angle to actually throw the ball. And I think that's a big part of it too, is he ran to the left side a lot, and then so he had to contort his body a weird way and try to throw it downfield. It just didn't work a lot of the times. Okay, so let's talk about Kaepernick's legs and how he used them this season. Colin was able to run more run options, read options for the offense, which gave him a better dynamic to his running games. He ran these really well. He wasn't too selfish with the ball. It seemed like he was genuinely reading his man of what he was supposed to look at. When you're doing a read option, you're supposed to be looking at a certain, right in, left in, outside linebacker who's doesn't basically get blocked, and whoever he bites on, if he bites on the running back, you're supposed to keep it yourself. And if he's biting towards you, give it to the running back, and the running back will gain some yards doing it. And it felt like he was doing that. He wasn't being selfish with it. And but here's the problem. When talking about his legs, here's the problem. When the play is a design pass, he still only thinks of his legs as something to use for yards, running for yards. If you look at guys like Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes, Dak Prescott, Aaron Rodgers, these are guys who use their legs to get out of bad situations and run with the ball. Okay, not just run with the ball, and run with the ball, because they think of their legs as extensions of the passing game, and that's where Colin fails. It's a big hole in this game, and he needs to learn it to become a better and more lethal weapon. Okay, but he has the dynamic of the running game, but if he can use his legs a little better, he makes a bigger step. Okay, and then next I kind of want to talk about the coach's play calling, how it helped and hurt Colin. First, help. The play calling in the beginning of the season was very much all about making Colin throw the ball more. How did they do that? Basically, they called a lot of one-step and three-step drop plays that are designed to get the ball out of Colin's hands very quickly. How this translated was basically made Colin more comfortable in the pocket, because that was a big problem of 2013. Remember I said that he felt uncomfortable and he ran outside? I felt like this was to make him comfortable in the pocket and just throw the ball in the pocket, having people in front of him. So he has those offensive linemen in front of him, so he gets comfortable doing it. Okay. Because of this, coaches would call more plays and let Colin sit back and shotgun and make the deeper plays and make decisions, go through his progressions eventually. But even with this improvement, Colin, he was still very limited on the types of passes he could make, just physically he could make. And because of this, the coaching staff limited the plays a lot more, I felt like. And they called plays that he could execute on a regular basis, but it's not what's gonna get. It's not what's gonna win you football games. They get predictable by the defense, and your whole offense gets shut down. I felt like a lot of the times I watched the same screen pass in the beginning of the game, and they would call it like 2 or 3 times in a row, and I'd be like, okay, that's enough, you guys. Stop starting your drives in your games like that. Everyone's gonna get it, and they did. They start shutting down the offense. And the last thing, skill wise, I want to bring up is whenever Colin has any pressure, and this is not just for 2014. This is for 2012 and 13 too. When he has any pressure, it seems like he forgets everything he does, all the progress he's made up to this point, and he sucks. He forgets everything. Every bad game he had is because he was facing a good pass rush, and it's pretty disappointing. Talking about disappointing, last thing I want to bring up isn't just skill-wise, it's just San Francisco as a whole. San Francisco 49ers were 7-4 at one point in the season, and they're fighting for a wild card spot. And instead of continuing to fight, Colin Kaepernick and the entire team choked out and lost every single game except for one, their last game, ending their season at 8-8. At that time, Colin should have stepped up and said, look, I'm putting the team on my back. We're going to win these games, and we're going to make it to the playoffs. Look, I'm a franchise quarterback. You paid me for a reason. Here's why. But instead, he ends up saying, man, you know what? Maybe I'm not a franchise quarterback. Maybe you guys can't count on me, and maybe you guys should start looking somewhere else. And I felt like that's kind of the beginning of the end for Colin Kaepernick. And I feel like, personally, 2014 was the best Colin Kaepernick we got. The best version of Colin Kaepernick is 2014. There's a lot of ups and downs. 8-8 season was the worst one since that Super Bowl, but man, it was the best version of him in my opinion. So 2015-16 are shortened years, no stats. I'm not going to put anything up. I just want to talk about a couple of things before jumping into the film. 2015, after a 27-6 loss to the St. Louis Rams, he was benched for Blaine Gabbert. I agree with this decision by the coaches. After being 12-4 2 seasons before this, it kind of looked like a team who kind of lost their identity. They were a huge defensive-heavy team, and they lost a lot of guys. And 20 days later, after being benched, he was placed on IR with a season-ending shoulder surgery. Then in the offseason, he expressed interest in being traded, which kind of started the divide between player and front office. In my mind, Colin already had one foot outside the door at this point. Okay, let's start into the 2015 season, which 2015 and 16 are pretty much the same thing. So we're getting pretty close to the end of this. 2015 was the shortest, outside of 2016, shortest film analysis for me because Colin was sat after week 8 of the 2015 season. And it was also shortest because how disappointing it was, really. Every year, Colin Kaepernick seemed to make some type of improvement to this game. But this year, it wasn't the case. He seemed to take steps backwards and once again, staring down one side of the field, not using his legs to his advantage, his accuracy taking a hit for the worse. And I honestly don't think it's his fault entirely at this point. The coaching that year was awful. It was bad. The play calling was predictable. The first play of the game, again, seemed to be those stupid screen passes to one of their speedy wide receivers. Short pass, run, short pass, run, short pass, short. Boring and predictable. It sucked. And I really don't blame him for everything, but he isn't completely innocent either. Like I said, you were doing great. You were making improvements, and you completely took 4 steps backwards. In 2016, it was pretty much the same thing, except he scrambled and used his legs even more. Not what you want. But he entered the season coming off 2 more additional surgeries in 2016 on his thumb and his knee, and he came into a quarterback battle with Blaine Gabbert. He ultimately ended up losing the battle. Then he ended up starting the final 11 games of the season. Kyle Shanahan was then hired, made a statement that Colin didn't fit the scheme. He was made a free agent in the 2017 offseason. Okay, that's kind of where Colin Kaepernick's NFL career comes to a halt, comes to a stop. He was in the news a lot. Is he going to get signed? Where is he going to get signed? Where should he get signed? And ultimately, he never got signed. He got some interest from a couple teams here and there, but he never got put anywhere. So, and something happened after the 2017 season. The biggest thing is his workout, and my opinions on the workout is he looked good. He looked decent. Don't get me wrong, but what did we just talk about? Colin is worst when he can't get his feet set. He has pressure in his face. He has to go through progressions. So the workout didn't have to go through progressions, didn't have any pressure in his face, and he never had to run around. Okay, that's it. He looked good, but it's deceiving. Very, 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 very deceiving. So here's my final collusion. Sick. Nice word for the day. nice way to end that off is word with collusion. Sick. That's not what I'm saying. Final conclusion. Do you guys remember what the final question was? Is Colin Kaepernick good enough to be an NFL quarterback? Yes. Let me tell you why. It's no accident I compared him to Ryan Tannehill. It's outside of just year 2 starter, year 3 starter not being Andrew Luck. Ryan Tannehill is still playing in the league today, and he's doing pretty damn good. And he was about 2 steps above Colin Kaepernick, and the Titans are a good team. So here's where I stand on it. I think Colin Kaepernick is good enough to be a backup to any single team, a second stringer on every single team in this league. And he's good enough to be a starter and probably a handful of the bottom 5 or 6 teams. Starters who have older guys who are veterans, not young guys who are developing the quarterback. Because people will be like, oh, well, just look at this guy and look at that guy. Look at these quarterbacks. They suck. But, dude, they're young. They're young quarterbacks, and they're trying to develop, like the Jets. You don't just replace Sam Darnold with Colin Kaepernick because the whole Jets suck and their offensive line is garbage. Putting Colin Kaepernick where he's going to get pressure in his face isn't going to be any better. So, yes, he's good enough to play in this league. Absolutely. But here's the kick. Here is the kick. If you were a GM right now, would you want a media circus around your locker room, every single day for Colin Kaepernick? Okay, why should your backup quarterback garner more attention than most of your locker room in general? 80% of your locker room. Okay, why should he? Does everybody forget about Tim Tebow? Different situations, different reason why they're out of the league. But, who wants to have their backup have more attention than everybody else almost? Good enough to be a starter, but should he be a starter? Sorry, good enough to be a starter in some places, good enough to be a backup anywhere. But should he be signed? It's completely up to the league. Do you really want all that attention on your backup? Because let's think about this. Let's say he got signed to the Jets. Good example. Sam Darnold's struggling. You see headlines everywhere. Is it time to start Colin Kaepernick? Colin Kaepernick, Colin Kaepernick. Now the New York fans, brutal, are saying, start Colin. They're pissed off. They're screaming. They're yelling. No one wants to deal with that. So, final answer. Yes, he's good enough. But should he? That's down to a personal reason. And you guys let me know what that reason is. Do you guys agree with me? Do you guys disagree with me? Let me know what you guys think about my film analysis. If you guys have any ideas for improvements to this is my first one. Not super confident in it, if I'm being honest. Let me know how I did. Let me know about the film analysis. Let me know if you think Colin should be starting in any teams. Let me know who. Let me know why. And if he's not good enough, tell me why. Explain yourself in the comment section below. If you're new here, consider pressing that subscribe button so you can follow my journey on this channel. I do podcasts every single week. I'm hoping to do player breakdowns in the off season, and I do have a little quick something called quick hits, stuff that's off the dome of my head, and I kind of just raw and talk about it. So if you want to follow me, hit that subscribe button. If you like the video, and let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I appreciate you guys. Peace.